And the therapy feature on the American online platform Netflix, giving the country international visibility that transcends boundaries. Good evening and thanks for joining us. Those were the headlines of the 7:30 news.
I urge you once again to put on your face masks, to wash your hands regularly, and to consult a physician or any other health personnel if you notice any symptoms. This is the only way to save lives and to curb the spread of the virus.
The Interministerial Committee to monitor government's response strategy for the fight against the coronavirus is remodeling its actions. At the first session in 6 months, Prime Minister Joseph John Goodey reiterated the necessity to respect preventive measures. The resurgence of the pandemic and strides to get a vaccine were also explored. Christian Chiatam has the details.
The Interministerial Committee to evaluate the government's response strategy against COVID-19 was once more in session to address the upsurge, which has seen over 3,200 new cases of COVID-19 in Cameroon within the past week alone. The Central region leads the chart with over 1,000 new cases. The littoral records 777 new cases, while the East, Center, Adamawa, and Northwest have each recorded over 100 cases. Prime Minister Joseph John Goodey and members of the committee deliberated on modalities surrounding the introduction of vaccines against COVID-19. The Minister of Public Health presented an overview of all the technicalities involved. The session equally explored strategies to relaunch a nationwide communication and education campaign around the disease. The Minister of Communication, René-Emmanuel Sadi, said state and private media, as well as civil society organizations, shall be used to beef up communication around COVID-19. The governor of the Central region, Naseri Paul Biya, presented an overview of the pandemic in his region. Prime Minister Joseph John Goodey recommended that barrier measures regarding the washing of hands, respect of distancing, and wearing of face masks in schools and public places as well as in churches be reinforced. He called for an increase in testing and the follow-up of persons moving into the country.
The Minister of Communication and Government spokesperson, René-Emmanuel Sadi, was amongst the main speakers at today's interministerial meeting. He restated that public and private media outlets will be fully absorbed in communicating and disseminating information on the novel coronavirus. Here's René-Emmanuel Sadi speaking after the meeting.
We will use the traditional channel, that is Crtv, so we should need the contribution of the private media, religious leaders, political leaders, civil associations, because they get in touch with the population and they could, communicate and draw the attention of our population to the fact that the virus is still present in our country. We've seen a lot of negligence, and it is time for us to be conscious of the fact that this negligence could be very harmful for everyone. The head of state, has preferred that we should sensitize Cameroonians instead of using coercive measures.
Adhering to COVID-19 protective prescriptions is daunting in some schools and colleges in the nation's capital, Yaoundé. In spite of education on the dangers of unmasking and keeping close physical contact, making learners still go about masking down in some premises. Between school authorities and pupils, it is a cat and mouse game against COVID-19. Ewane Pole presents some findings in Yaoundé today.
School authorities in Yaoundé say they are not lying on their laurels as far as reinforcing measures to ensure that their institutions are free from COVID-19.
We have decided that any child who be caught in class without his or her face mask be booked for disciplinary council.
The education officials, however, face some challenges.
The wearing of masks, we can go up to 80%, but thanks to the initiative of our founder, we have some masks available for those who forget theirs, we give them.
We know that we must reinforce those social barrier measures.
To further reinforce COVID-19 preventive measures, parents of these learning institutions have been advised to give children food from home so as to avoid the crowded restaurants in schools and colleges.
And now on to one of our top stories. It is 10 months to the African Nations Cup to be hosted in Cameroon, and most of the stadia set aside for the competition stand ready. In the city of Yaoundé, where two groups will be lodged, the Omisport Stadium is entirely refurbished, while the Olembe Sports Complex, expected to host the official opening ceremony, is 80% finalized. Baldwin Summer reports on these infrastructure, plus the miniature stadium, which is one of the selected training grounds.
Upon completion, it will be one of the best in the world, the Olembe Sports Complex today, with a main stadium that is 80% ready and remains a pleasure to the eyes for many. This stadium will be delivered in November 2021. The training grounds are equally 80% ready for delivery come November this year. The hotel and commercial centers are 60% and 70% ready, respectively.
Regarding the gymnasium, the swimming pool and the other infrastructure, they are under studies actually, and the studies has to be completed in August 2021, and the project will be delivered in November 2022.
Most of the stadium facilities, including the pitch, are already visible, with finishing works on the access road to the stadium ongoing. Hitherto used as a COVID-19 treatment center, the turf of the military stadium is gradually gaining shape after work started here last November, as the field of play will be used as from August 2021. This training ground, alongside the Olembe Sports Complex, will be used during the 2021 Africa Cup of Nations.
Garoua is also one of the host cities of the African Nations Cup, with the exception of the Benue Hotel and the homologated 100-room hotel still under construction and renovation. All other facilities earmarked to receive the delegations are in a fit state. Wilson Mengole shows the accomplishments in the Northwest in these reports.
The Rundiadzie Omisport Stadium, the main competition ground, and its annex have been constructed and refurbished with a touch of class. The infrastructure had been raised to CAF and FIFA standards, as Garoua is host to one of the pools for the AFCON. The hotels on their part are equally set to receive local and international guests for the soccer jamboree, except the four-star Hotel Benue and Sanchamp still under construction.
Now we have a lot of nice hotels and then sports infrastructure. Now we have a lot of stadiums.
The road network and the Garoua International Airport have equally received a facelift.
After the stadiums will remain, so we can use those infrastructures for our own purposes.
Taking these realizations into consideration, it can be said that Garoua is set to host one of the pools of the continent's biggest soccer showcase.
From the north to the west region, rehabilitation of sports infrastructure for the 2021 Africa Cup of Nations is 90% gone, to the elation of the local organizing committee headed by Governor Awa Fonka Augustine. Works on the stadia are downright over, and contractors are active on a few kilometers of road leading to the sites. Chancelin Nancy says they are also rounding off level on accommodation points.
The essentials have been put in place at the Bafoussam Omnisport Stadium. commentary booth, media tribune, media zone, conference room and the railings separating the different tribunes, while some finishing works are still ongoing.
We are currently working on the ticket control booth. The railings will permit spectators to respect seats indicated on their tickets.
All 4 training grounds have been received and additional stadia constructed near some hotels to shorten the distance for teams.
As far as Bafsam is concerned, government has gone beyond what was necessary for these games. For example, we have the Toket Stadium still to be completed. We equally have the Municipal Stadium in Bafa. In Bangu, there is a stadium with a capacity of 2,000 that is being constructed that will be attached to the Tajidor Garden.
Bafusam has been completely transformed with the tarring of roads in the town and the creation of a bypass road linking the Bamagum roundabout to the airport. The town is currently being embellished, though the main challenge remains urban disorder.
We have started to remove everybody along the main routes, and people will be informed that they have to renew the painting on their buildings.
But for Bantu Hotel, that is still under construction, all the other lodging facilities are good to go, responding to international norms.
For the cities of Douala in the littoral and Limbe in the southwest, the assessment is near total on the availability of stadia. The Japoma, Bepanda and Limbe Mispo depict a state-of-the-art quality unveiled during the African Nations Championship. The major worry, however, remains the east entrance into Douala, where finishing works are ongoing. Borden Sama tells us more.
It stands out tall, imposing itself as one of the best football stadiums in Africa, the Japoma Stadium, after seducing the world with its beauty and facilities, convinced CAF officials that it is a stadium of international standards after it was used during the African Nations Championship and it will be used during the 2021 Africa Cup of Nations. Although earmarked to be used as a training ground, the Bepanda Omnisport Stadium is better to be used as a main stadium given its presence, beauty and services offered after its renovation. The main worry in Douala remains the access into town from the central region. Persistent traffic is the order of the day as measures have been taken to decongest the zone before the 2021 AFCON. The Limbe Omnisport Stadium, used during the 2016 Women's Africa Cup of Nations and the 2020 African Nations Championship, is visibly ready to be used during the 2021 Africa Cup of Nations.
As you can see, the extension of the roof of the West Tribune after 2016 AFCON, we equally transform the media center of the stadium. There is a transformation of the media tribune of the stadium.
Quality training facilities in Limbe and Boya meet international standards, telling signs that if the Africa Cup of Nations were to be played today, Limbe and Boya are ready.
The National Assembly begins the first ever exhibition on pioneer female parliamentarians in Cameroon. At the National Museum today, Deputy Speaker Honorable Emilia Monjowa Lifaka inaugurated the exposition, which traced the roots of female leadership in parliament from the first legislature in 1973 to the 10th in 2021. Charles Ibune has details of the exhibition that will last 1 month.
The National Museum Yaoundé displaying a photo gallery of female parliamentary repertoire for the past 48 years.
I wish to say thank you so much to the Right Honourable Speaker for having authorized the setting up of this exposition. To say thank you to the Secretary General and his collaborators for putting up a magnificent exposition.
An initiative of House Clerk Gaston Komba, the display here shows female parliamentary leadership in committees and parliamentary associations over the years, the progression and the regression of women in parliament in Cameroon.
We want to celebrate the woman leadership in political area.
Accompanied by messages of President Biya's penchant for the promotion of women, this is one of the activities to mark this year's Women's Day at the National Assembly. The photo exhibition of women in parliament in Cameroon at the National Museum in Yaoundé was attended, amongst others, by female MPs and ordinary Cameroonians.
The Female Digital Program is on course on the initiative of the Ministry of Post and Telecommunications, with women educated on the importance of new information and communication technologies. Chaired by Minister Minette Libom Lee Likeng, the training workshop on digital opportunities for women benefits from the technical assistance of the African Women Startup. Alison Bay reports.
The ceremony that brought together members from the African Women Tech Startup Association and other ministries is to sensitize women on the importance of ICT operations so as to enable young girls obtain jobs.
I hope that young girls will really be involved in ICT activities. If we have more women startups, you will see the change.
The 4-day program will constitute caravans, debates, training workshops, and sensitization of women on cyber criminalities.
We have women entrepreneurs. After the training, they are going to continue to have certification online.
During the ceremony, the minister emphasized on the fact that majority of rural women are not inspired in ICT operations. Thus, the First Lady, Chantal Bia, has decided to boost up the morale of women in ICT techniques to permit them excel in their businesses.
On to our discovery of an outstanding female educationist. 37-year-old Yaudam Elizabeth is a professor, lecturer and head of department at the University of Ngandere Institute of Technology. The mother of 4 who hails from the North region, where the education of the girl child is usually faced by discrimination, she encourages the younger generation to fully explore their potential. Elise Waji Bangmia has more.
Professor Yaudam Saidu Elizabeth is considered in her community as a wondrous woman who has made a huge impact by defeating all odds to acquire education in a very complex environment.
As a woman, going to school in a culturally complex society like ours was not easy, but I had to forge ahead with discipline, determination and rigor as watchwords.
After successfully going through her education and obtaining a PhD in African literature, Professor Yaudam is today not only a university lecturer, but also head of a department. Many say her contribution has given a direction to other women and helps them to fight for their rightful demand to education in this part of Cameroon.
I invest a lot of time in academics, research, philanthropic gestures, and many other things to impact the society.
She calls on women to use the International Women's Day as a springboard to better achievements and more reflection.
I urge you once again to put on your face masks, to wash your hands regularly, and to consult a physician or any other health personnel if you notice any symptoms. This is the only way to save lives and to curb the spread of the virus.
Now on to coronavirus news. It was in the month of March 2020 that government first outlined strict measures to curb the spread of the virus in Cameroon. With the passing of time, there was an easing of restrictions, although the mandatory wearing of face masks in public places is maintained. 1 year down the line, it is imperative that the population stays conscious of the existence of the virus. Baldwin Summer and Dr. Joseph Fulcom highlights on these issues at the Public Health Emergency Operations Center. Hello, Baldwin.
Good evening. When we had the first case confirmed in Cameroon in March 2020, many Cameroonians got to discover that how the virus could easily spread from one region to the other. What must we do to avoid a replica of what happened in March 2020 in Cameroon? We are in March 2021. Let's find out from Dr. Joseph Fulcom, our guest tonight. Good evening, Doctor.
Good evening, Bardin.
What should we do to avoid a replica of what was the case in March 2020?
Bardin, the replica of what we had in March 2020 as compared to what we are seeing nowadays is effectively a sharp increase in the number of new cases of COVID-19 during these past 2 months. And simply because we believe, hypothetically, that there must be this new virus strain circulating in our context, and this new virus strain, as compared to what we had earlier, is more transmissible, about more than 70% more transmission risks. And what's the direct consequence is that such new virus strains has a higher aggressivity, is more virulent, and people turn to frequent more the health facility because they get sick. And just a simple evidence of what we are seeing now in Cameroon, we have moved from 10 cases of mortality to 50 cases. We have moved from less than 3,000 cases, now we are more than 4,000 cases that we are seeing on a monthly basis in our context. So people need to go back more than ever on those barrier measures. So if you are using your masks maybe once, twice a day, now you need to double up those preventive measure. You need to multiply the preventive action such that you shouldn't be at risk of this new potential virus strain, which is more aggressive, which is also more dangerous.
Thank you so much, Dr. Joseph Okam, for always being available as our guest. We must redouble our efforts in this national fight to limit the spread of the coronavirus in Cameroon. Back to you.
Thanks, Baldwin. And we continue talking about the coronavirus pandemic, where COVID-19 preventive kits and some medical equipment worth 65 million CFA francs have been handed over to the Adluche Medical Foundation by the German Society for International Cooperation, GIZ. The donation ceremony to the foundation's headquarters was presided over by the governor of the Central Region, Nasir Paul Beya. Lekiate Gertrude Asongazi has the details.
The COVID-19 preventive kit donated to the Adluche Medical Foundation in Yaoundé comprise of oxygen concentrators, hydroalcoholic gel, thermoflashes, personal protective equipment for medical personnel, detergents and others.
We are very grateful for GIZ who accepted to give us this important donation to protect our health personnel. If they are not well protected, they are going to be contaminated and they are not going to be at the service of patients.
While receiving the gifts, the governor of the Central Region hailed the excellent cooperation between the foundation and GIZ. He equally lauded the COVID-free health personnel initiative launched by the GIZ and the Adluche Medical Foundation.
They should make good use of this material that has been freely donated and offered to them by GIZ because it is going to go a long way to help them.
At the end of the ceremony, the governor insisted that breaking the chain of contamination against COVID-19 requires the efforts of all stakeholders.
Still in health news, the ongoing scheme for the Debt Relief Development Program C2D has contributed to the reduction of maternal and neonatal mortality in Cameroon. At the press breakfast today, the trend covered to achieve universal health coverage through the project was unveiled. Kilian Dandifon tells us more.
Cumulative maternal and neomaternal deaths rose to 782 per 1,000 live births in Cameroon in 2011. This disturbing trend was double the average maternal and neomaternal deaths in the whole of Africa. Studies show that the number of deaths that gave Cameroon such a bad record was from the northern regions and were directly linked to poverty. The C2D put in place a health scheme called Cheikh Santé in the far north and Adamawa regions, by which a token of 6,000 CFA francs pre- and neonatal care was assured for registered expectant mothers. In partnership with the French Development Agency GIZ and KfW, German sponsors, the project has succeeded to bring the figures down to 467 per thousand. In a press breakfast Thursday in Yaoundé, C2D announced its plans to extend it to the whole country, aimed at achieving the universal health coverage.
In culture, as we announced in one of our top stories, Cameroon is being honored on the American online platform Netflix, with millions of viewers on the globe thrilled to the country's productions. The Fisherman's Diary, the award-winning movie, and The Therapy are the first picks that showcase the culture of Cameroon and unveil the gallantry of the country's film industry. Gerard Nanji Eyambe reports.
It is the first time Cameroonian movies will be available on Netflix, an American movie content online platform with more than 200 million subscribers. The award-winning movies, The Fisherman's Diary, produced by Can Quintus, and Therapy, co-produced by Simo Saka and Saka Antoine, have placed Cameroon on a notch higher in the movie-making business.
I'm very excited. This is a big win for the Cameroonian movie industry. It's a big win for Cameroon. And as the indomitable lion of the Cameroonian cinema, we will continue to work extremely hard to make sure the Cameroonian flag flies in the international scene. And I want to tell you that we'll be announcing the details very soon. Stay tuned.
An indication that both movies meet international standards in terms of quality, sound, content, and storyline. The Fisherman's Diary, that has won various awards on the national and international stage, is the only Cameroonian movie to be nominated at the Oscars Award.
Elsewhere, a convention to create job opportunities for Cameroonian youth has been signed between the Ministry of Employment and Vocational Training and the National Social Insurance Fund. This was on the occasion of a 3-day assessment of vocational training centers in the center region. Joyce Tata has the details.
There are over 2,300 persons of Cameroonian nationality that make up the National Social Insurance Fund. Reason enough for such partnerships to be undertaken with government to help fight youth unemployment and lack of training. An important move so far since Minister Issa Chiroma Bakari of Employment and Vocational Training began his working visit.
I would like first of all to congratulate the General Manager, to praise his vision of future. This convention, the purpose of it is to link the two institutions. I will put to his disposal whatever he needs in terms of vocational training to train his personnel. Failing to receive such a training means that you will be thrown away. You will fall in the obsolescence. I will see to it that this convention is fully implemented.
A cap will be put on the strategic tour to these economic operators in favor of youth this Friday in the Melon neighborhood in Yaoundé.
In this obituary, the funeral of one of Cameroon's most influential economists, public finance consultant and teacher, Dr. Ariel Nitedem, has begun with the removal of his corpse at the Yaoundé General Hospital mortuary today. He died at the age of 58 last February 9 after an illness and will be buried in his native Fongo Tongo near Chang in the West region. The late Dr. Nitedem is known for spearheading several initiatives which have helped build a foundation for economic policies in the country. Beatrice Losamba has more.
A solemn goodbye to a super scholar. Dr. Ariel Matthias Nitedem lies in the casket. Last February 9, he succumbed to a long illness. Death at 58 is shocking to his wife and children, as well as grandchildren, had to console at his coffining in the Yaoundé General Hospital mortuary. Among the people who had come to say goodbye, his students. He taught public finance during his rich teaching career at the School of Administration and Magistracy, School of Economics and Management, among the tens of other higher schools he taught in. His own way of laying the foundation for economic policies in the country. It explains the huge presence of members of government at his coffining. The influential economist helped design strategies for banking institutions, parastatals, universities, and ministries, and he was always available to talk economics on media platforms in and out of the country. A rich career in public finance that ends. He will be buried in his birthplace, Fongo Tongo, near Chang, in the West region, Saturday.
And may his soul rest in peace. That brings us to the end of the 7:30 news, in which you mainly heard that 10 months to the 2021 Africa Cup of Nations Stadia.